Alright, we're now going to turn our attention to linear programming problems, and these problems might seem very different from what we've been doing over the rest of this semester. So let's take a look. So let's suppose I bake cheesecakes and pies, and we know some information about the cheesecake recipe. It requires 4 cups of sugar and 3 cups of flour, and we know each pie requires 3 cups of sugar and 6 cups of flour. Every day, I get a delivery of 30 cups of sugar and 45 cups of flour. And each time I make and sell a cheesecake, I make $7 in profit, and I make $3 in profit for each pie. And the question is, how much of each should I make to maximize my profit? So first of all, there's a bunch of numbers in this problem. Let's circle them and then put some of them in a table. All right, so we have this 4 cups of sugar, we have 3 cups of flour, we have 6 cups of flour, and 3 cups of sugar. We know how many we get each day, and we know how much money we make off of each time we sell something. So the first thing we should do is we should put all this information into a table. All right, so in our table, we're making cheesecakes and we're making pies. And the ingredients that we use are sugar and flour. And one other thing that we know about the cheesecakes and the pies is the profit. All right. So let's go through and figure out for the cheesecake how much sugar it takes, how much flour it takes, and what the profit is. So the cheesecake takes 4 cups of sugar, it takes 3 cups of flour, and we make $7 in profit. And the pie, it takes 3 cups of sugar, 6 cups of flour, and we make $3 in profit. Notice we left a couple of numbers out here. There was this 30 cups of sugar and 45 cups of flour per day. We didn't put those into the table. These two things are called constraints. I'm going to circle these constraints because we still need to use those. All right, now that we've made the table, we can start with the next step of the problem, which is defining variables. So where do we look when we're defining variables? We look at the last sentence, the question. The question asks us, how many of each should we make? So those are our variables, the number of cheesecakes we make and the number of pies we make. So over here, let's go and start solving this problem. We let x be number of cheesecakes that I make, and we let y be the number of pies I make. Step 1, the table. Step 2, defining our variables. The third step is writing out our objective function, what we want to do. And again, we find this by looking at the last sentence. The question says, how many of each should he make to maximize profit? So we want to maximize, we want to make the most profit we can. So the profit, that will be what we call our objective function. So the next step is we write what we're going to maximize. I'm going to use a P for profit, and now from the table we can figure out what the function, what the formula is for profit. So if I sell X cheesecakes and each one makes me $7, that'll be $7x in profit from the cheesecakes. From the pies, I sell Y of them, and each one makes me $3 in profit, so that's a 3Y. So we maximize the profit, and the profit's written like that. But now there's certain conditions, because we only have so much sugar and so much flour per day. So now we write the word subject to, because we can't pick X and Y to be anything we want. There's certain conditions on them, and those are called constraints, and now we write our constraints down. Okay, so we're going to get one constraint from each ingredient. So let's look at the sugar. We know that if I make X cheesecakes, then that'll take 4X cups of sugar. If I make Y pies, that'll take 3Y cups of sugar. And we know that I get 30 cups of sugar per day, so 4x plus 3y better be less than or equal to 30. So this constraint comes from cups of sugar. We similarly get one from the flour. So from the flour, we make X cheesecakes, and they each use 3 cups of flour, so that's 3x. We make Y pies, they each use 6 cups of flour, that's 6y. And we get a delivery of 45 cups of flour per day, so that's got to be less than 45. This constraint comes from cups of flour. And there's actually one more constraint that we're missing here. Because this is a real-life situation, it's a word problem, we know that we can't get x and y to be negative, right? I can't make -4 cheesecakes or -17 pies in a day. So we know that x and y need to be positive. So that's two more constraints, which we actually just write in one line. We write x, comma, y are both bigger than or equal to 0. So in this video, we've set up this problem entirely from making the table to defining our variables to writing a sentence which tells us what we want to maximize or minimize, the objective function here, and what the constraints are.